I'm good. Today we're going to be talking to y'all about the the architectural structures of a database.
Is this the beta team?
No.
This is the Silver Spring.
Silver Spring.
Oh.
All right, so we're going to talk about the three architectural structures, which are the process structures, the memory structures, and the storage structures. I have here David, and he's going to go first. He's going to present the process structure.
Okay. I'm going to present the user process. The user process start when a user requests a service. I mean, a user process, this a user right here. And the user use three ways for request the service. The first one, he can connect by, he can use the VNC. This is the first way. The second way, all the time is user process. The second way is the two tier and the three. Okay. When the user requests, because the user process is a program, and right there you use the SQL, and right there we have a listen. The first tier go to the server without the listener. The second and the tier use the listener before get in the server. And the listener is for check for protocol, host name, and service name. After this, after the listener check everything, check the port, the protocol, the host name, and the service name, we get in the service, and we have right now the server process.
Thanks, Dave. Does anybody have any questions about that? Is that after the presentation?
You don't want to ask questions.
Is that the end, right?
No questions? My bad.
You have 16 minutes left.
All right, now we're going to move on to Herman here, and he's going to present you the server process. Yeah, Herman, take it away.
Hi, guys. I'm going to present the server process. First of all, the server process created to handle the request made by the user process to connect it to the instance. So on behalf of each user, the server process can make one or more multiple actions, as run the SQL statement. It might also parse. It might read the blocks in the buffer cache, and if the blocks are not present in the buffer cache, they're going to come to the file copied.
Herman, you explain it. You're supposed to explain the server process.
Yeah, it's server process.
That's the buffer cache. That's part of the memory. We're still in the process.
As I was saying, the server process also read with the blocks. If the blocks are not present, they copy those blocks on the file, bring it up to make it easier on the buffer card to be read. And they also.
We're gonna move on to the next one. All right, now we have here Stafford. He's gonna explain the background, part of the background process and the demon process. Say the demon process.
Good evening, class. So I'll be talking about the demon process and I'll be talking about the listener. So I'm going to use an example of the situation to explain the listener. So who has ever made a call to an office to speak to someone or maybe to speak to an administrator and then the person is being put on a hold? Okay, so you actually call the receptionist, speak, and she said, okay, who do you want to talk to? And then you say the name of the person and she tells you to wait. And then she actually gets to the person and then, so that's exactly the way the listener functions. Its main purpose is just to establish a connection between the user and the database. Yeah. So when the user sends an application, so it first of all goes through the listener. The listener then tries to create a connection with the database, and the user has to first of all be authenticated, which means he will have to put his username and password in order for him to be connected to that database, and hence a session will be established. So when that session is established, the listener now is no longer there. The communication now is between the application and the database. That's just exactly how, like going by the example that I gave, when the reception now connects you to the administrator or whoever he wants to talk to, he now is no longer in that call. So that's just the way the listener functions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stafford. All right, now I have here Roman. He's going to explain the background processes.
Hey class.
You see this?
So I'm going to talk about background processes. I'm going to talk about Esmond, Emon, log writer, and checkpoint. So Esmond. Esmond is a background processes meant for instant recovery. So if, like a case where we have like consistency in the SCN numbers between control files and the header files in the database files or in the buffer cache, that's when at that moment we don't need recovery. So if there is inconsistency between the SCN numbers in the buffer cache, the data blocks in the buffer cache, and the SCN number in the control files, that's when we have recovery from the start SCN number in the header files of the database file to the stop SCN number in the control files. So Esmond also frees up segments of completed transactions for other transactions to take place and being temporarily stored on disk. So I would say that's all about Esmond that I have. So let me go to Paymon. Paymon is there to monitor like idle sessions, to check if we have idle sessions that can be freed up for other users to use up the buffer cache to complete a transaction. And it does so by freeing up the buffer cache and freeing up user processes that are linked to the activities that are taking place in the buffer cache. And daemon also like registers the listener to the database instance. So anybody that wants to connect to a particular instance must pass through a particular listener which is being connected to a particular instance for them to have the information that he requires. So I'm going to talk about payment. Payment basically frees up failed user process. So I'm going to go to log writer.
DB right.
DB writer.
You know what?
So log writer is a fast writer. It writes Verilog files from the Verilog buffer. Verilog entries from the Verilog buffer to the Verilog files. So if the log writer writes a record of a completed transaction in the Verilog file, that guarantees us that we have a successfully saved changes that are being made in the buffer cache. So it's going to be later saved in the database files. And as I said, it's a fast writer, so it writes fast ahead the DB writer. So if fast writer hasn't written the information in the Verilog files, DB writer can write down the saved transaction or saved changes into the database file. So the process of DB writer writing first, the process of log writer writing first before the DB writer, we call that the write ahead process. So log writer, maybe you have an instance where there are multiple transactions taking place. We can have like maybe doing, I don't know, let's say maybe transaction taking place, and there are whole lots of data Verilog files being generated. So if the log writer writes, let's say, one block, and it comes back into the Verilog buffer and finds out that we have like a chunk of files to copy, the log writer is going to write all of them together at once. So we have to so that we can conserve both resources and I/O. So that's all about log writer. I'm going to go to checkpointing. So checkpointing is a process of log writer writing down dirty buffers, dirty blocks into the database files. So I don't want to talk much about it. So if when DB writer writes down dirty buffers into the database files, it's like associated with SCN number. So checkpoint always associate SCN numbers to the modified data blocks and also to the control files. So that here we have like, we call it start SCN numbers. And in the control files we have like stop SCN numbers. So that in case we require SMON will come and compare the start SCN number with the stop SCN number to see if they are the same or concurrent or something. So if they are concurrent, there will be no need for recovery. But if they are not concurrent, recovery must take place in case of a crash. Okay, let me go to DB writer. DB writer is a smart writer.
Did
So
you say concurrent?
what the word?
Consistent.
Consistent, sorry, or inconsistent. So let me go to DB writer. DB writer is a smart writer. That is, you write in batches. So you write in batches, and the advantage to write in batches is to reduce the expenses and resources. So DB writer writes only when the change buffers have reached a certain threshold, maybe inserted manually by you or the DBA. And DB writer for DB writer.
All right, thanks, Roman. Good job, man. All right, now I have here BB, and as far as the process structures, that's complete. Now we're gonna go into the memory structure. And I have ABB here. She's gonna talk about the share pool.
Hi class. I'm going to talk about the share pool. Inside of the share pool, we do have a server process. And the server process, the share pool is like the second memory structure. And inside of the share pool, we do have a server process who read and write. And in the share pool, we do have an authentication. The server process, we check for first the authentication, the password and the username if it's correct. We check also if we do have a existing object, and the parsing. As a server process, when it checks for the user and the password, we will check if that object exists in the share pool. After that, if the object exists in the share pool, we do also have a system global area. And on that part, when we check for the object existing, everything is correct, it's not gonna parse. But if the object that was looking for is not on that part, it's going to do a parsing. But in the share pool, they avoid parsing because it costs a lot of resources. So that's why always in the share pool, the parsing costs a lot of resource and take a lot of time. On that case, if the parsing doesn't work, it doesn't find the object, the parse and it goes to the buffer cache. We do have for the parsing is going to check for the object access, it's going to check for the syntax, it's going to check for the data dictionary. That's it.
Thank you, BB. Good job. Now I have here Gene. He's gonna explain the buffer cache to you all. Go ahead, man.
Good evening, classes. Yeah, I'm going to share a little bit what means buffer cache. Buffer cache is a structure of a domain who contain data in block. That means what? That means this is buffer cache. This is data in 1 block, 2 block, 3 block, 4 block. In some occasion, the buffer cache can retrieve data from the database. So it can some occasion retrieve data, copy data from here to here. So the cache, before when those things is function as we call that cache, the percentage of cache is 90%. 90%, right? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate you. All right. Now I have here Joseph, and he's going to be explaining to y'all the large pool, the NK, and the redo log file.
All right, class. I'll be talking about the redo log buffer, large pool, and NK. So to start with the redo log buffer, firstly we have to understand the redo log buffer is a circular type of buffer which holds information about changes which are being done in the database. So the redo-log buffer, the informations which are being held here are later on transferred into redo entries. And also the redo entries, the redo entries contain information necessary to reconstruct or redo any changes that are made in the database by data manipulation language.
I'm giving you guys 2 minutes.
Left.
Try to wrap it up. 2 minutes. You guys have
so let me
22 minutes already, but I'm giving you guys 2 minutes.
So let me go to the last pool then. The last pool is an optional, the last pool is an optional part of the SGL which allocates large memory for batch jobs or chunk job. Example, we have like the Oracle backups and recovery operations. The NK stores blocks of bigger sizes, like 16, which are not our regular 8K block sizes. So that's all.
Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate you. So I know that we're about to run out of time because we don't have time to do everybody. So can we like have another day to do it, or no? This is it. So we don't.
If you guys did really bad, you can come back again to do it again. We'll discuss with outside problem.
This group is big. Like I don't. You gotta.
Yeah, but the group is big, but I think that could have been said in 1 minute. I would say in 5 minutes.
I mean, but he said go into depth about what we're supposed to be talking about. So.
For example, if you want to talk about the shared pool, you can just say authentication, just already for statement and person. And maybe you add two sentences. That's less than 1 minute. You can conclude. You can conclude. You gotta have 1 minute.
Wow.
You guys have 25 minutes. You guys have 25 minutes. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people for 35. You guys will have done it.
Just let me catch up the 1 minute. I'm going to be talking about the keep pool, the recycle pool, and then the program global area. What is in the keep pool? The keep pool is a specialized, is right here. It's a specialized type of buffer cache who always keep all data block so that the user will not have to go inside the data file to get any block that they want to use. And what about the recycle pool? The recycle pool just overrides.
Thank you. Thank Yeah, I can leave like 2 minutes. What's the next Okay, so that's the land
This was
how the database
and its component, how the components of the database function together to make the database work. So we're going to start. I'm start by myself. Like I'm going to talk on the user process and the server process. The thing is, all of these work together. So at times we might bring in some stuff that will be later explained better later. So I'll start with, the thing is, the database cannot start without a connection. So I'll talk about the connection first, and connection is the communication between the user process, and the instance. That is the connection between the user process and the instance. So when the connection is being made, we go to the session. That is the session that gives whatsoever you want from the database the permission to come back to you. So without a session, you cannot get into the database. So the session exists when it exists, like it's the connection between the user and the instance by the use of the user process. So what does the user process does? It takes your information, like if you request information from the database, the user process takes that information in the form of a SQL statement, and it goes through the share pool first. But before it gets to the share pool, it meets the listener, because the listener has to do network checking before it gets into the share pool. So when it gets into the share pool, when the listener does the checking, it allocates a server process to that particular statement. So the statement gets into the share pool. So I'm going to call one of my friends to explain the share pool to you, and it's Bello.
Hello guys. I'm going to talk about the share pool. As we all know, the share pool is a structure of memory found in the SGA, otherwise known as structured global area. And it occurs where the user executes an SQL statement that is structured global area. The user process is going to carry this SQL statement to the share pool. It is in the share pool where the user process is going to hand the SQL statement to the server process, and the server process is going to authenticate the SQL statement by checking the email, by checking the password, and after that, the server process is going to check for shared SQL area. So if the SQL statement was passed before, it will just directly execute. But if it was not passed, it's going to undergo through parsing. And as we all know, parsing is a very expensive process in the Oracle database. So in parsing, it's going to check if a SQL statement is being parsed, it's going to check for object existency. It's going to check for object permission, like to check the email, to check the password. And it's going to check for data syntax, like data integrity, if the data is true. And it's also going to check for data dictionary. In the data dictionary, we all know that the data dictionary contains metadata. That's data about data. After that is being done, the SQL statement is going to be kept in the library cache. It is in the library cache where all SQL statements are being kept, all execution commands are being kept, and from there I'm going to invite the next speaker to talk about the buffer cache. Thank you.
Hi class. Guys, you can read a little bit, but don't make it too obvious. I'm going to talk about the buffer cache and then the DB1 writer. The buffer cache is a type of memory structure inside the SGA. As Bello just explained, the share pool, when the server process did everything in the share pool, all the authentication, the existing, whether there is a passing or not, he carried the SQL statement down to the buffer cache. If the data block is already in the buffer cache, it's a cache it. But if the data block is not in the buffer cache, he carried the statement down to the data file, he copied the data block and paste it in the buffer cache where it's going to be read. Also for the good running database, the hit ratio of both the caches and then the cache miss should be equal or greater than 90%. 90%. Also, the buffer in the cache are managed by the complex algorithm that use the combination of the LRU and then the touch count. The LRU, which is helping to ensure that the most recent used block tend to stay in the memory. In the memory to minimize the disk access. And then the touch count is described as how frequently the block has been used. Also, we talk about the DB writer. The DB writer is a type of background process, which is a smart writer who read the data who read the data block. We read the data from the buffer, not from the data file to the buffer cache. We read the data block from the buffer to the data file. Now I'm going to introduce the next person who's there.
Hi class. So, I'm going to talk about the keep pool and the recycle pool. The keep pool is a specialized type of buffer cache that stores frequently accessed data blocks. Data from the keep pool you can get data from the keep pool, like it's copied directly from the data file to the keep pool, and it can be read in the keep pool. So there's always a cache hit because the file can be read directly. When you get the file from the data file, it can be read directly into the keep pool. And the keep pool does not respect the LRU and touch count rules, because data blocks in the keep pool stays much longer. The recycle pool is similar to the keep pool but has one difference. Whereas the keep pool stores frequently accessed data blocks, the recycle pool stores rarely accessed data blocks. So when you're done with the data blocks from the keep pool and you need enough space, or let me say you need some space so you can get data blocks from the data files to the keep pool. The data blocks are moved to the recycle pool, so there's more space for more frequently accessed data to come in. That's all I have to say. The next person.
Yeah, I just want to add something. Like in the recycle pool, the blocks that are here are being forced down here as well when you're done using them, and they're being flushed out or they're overwritten. Should in case you need other blocks from here, from the data files, so they're being flushed out or overwritten. As she said, it doesn't. The LRU and the touch count rule doesn't function here. So the next person. That is, Alphonse will talk about the NK buffer and the large pool.
Okay. Good evening, class. Yeah, the NK buffer is one specialized type of buffer where the blocks that default in size from our 8K bytes are stored, n being equal to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and over, keeping the same sequence. And the large pool. The large pool is optional, and it's part of our HGA, but it's very important. And it's where large chunks of jobs are kept, are located. And mostly those jobs are run at night because they take a long time to be run. And something important about the large pool is that it does not respect the LRU. And most of the time when we increase the size of the pool to about 100%, we eliminate some types of error like ORA 04031 that shows in the screen that unable to allocate, or 04032 that means 33 that means insufficient memory, grow the pool, or 4030 that means out of process memory, when trying to allocate large chunks of jobs. And most of the time, the size will be like a few hundred kilobytes. And in this large pool, what else can I say is that parallel query operations are run in there, and advanced queue memories and table storage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, class. Chair is going to talk on the Java pool and the stream pool.
All right. So to talk about the Java pool and the stream pool, like Prof said, this is beyond the scope of this class, so I'm just going to rush through it. Do some few points. So for the Java pool, you all know, and the shared pool, these are all memory structures in the SGA. So it is for the Java pool, it is a random access memory region within the Oracle system global area, which is used for all sessions specific Java coding. It stores the data for the Java coding when it undergoes its own parsing and all the stuff going through the pool. So the Java pool also stores the procedure of the parsing and undergoes its own LRU algorithm. And as for the stream pool, we all know the stream pool, it's also a region within the Oracle SGA, and it provides a RAM buffer area for the structure for the stream application, like to store most information in the stream pool. It also stores buffer queue messages and advanced queuing. And also, like, let me explain this, especially for the stream pool. The stream pool helps in such a way that if in case we have a database in Maryland, and we need to back up information in California and New Jersey. So if in case those people in Maryland want to access we shut down the database here in Maryland, and we want people in Maryland want to access their information from New Jersey, they can easily access the information from New Jersey, because once the database here is shut down, due to the stream pool system, it helps restore other information. Like, it's a backup system too. Like, it store other information in New Jersey and New York. You can easily access your information without any hesitation and any stress. So basically, I'm going to hand over to the next person.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the redo log buffer. So as we all know, when as soon as the SQL statement moves from the shared pool to the buffer cache, the user process immediately takes a copy and brings it to the redo log buffer. So the redo log buffer is another memory structure of the SGA of the database. It contains information that is very crucial for recovery. It is circular in shape, and the information that's in there are called redo entries. Redo entries are generally any change that is made to the data in the database. Any change that is made to the data in database by DML or DDL, which stands for Data Manipulation Language or Data Definition Language. So when the information is stored in here, it's stored in SQL form, and then they're changed to buffers when it's ready to be written down to the redo log files. And also, whenever a new information is put in there, a new SCM, which stands for System Change Number, is generated just to keep track. And now we're moving on to the process structure, who is in charge of bringing, which is the log writer. The log writer is in charge of bringing the redo log buffers to the redo log files, to copy the information to the redo log files on disk. It is considered a fast writer because it writes really fast. Like as soon as change is made in the redo log buffer, it writes it directly to the redo log files. There are 4 instances in which the log writer will write. It will write whenever a user commits, as in saves a transaction. It will write when the redo log buffer is 1/3 full. It will write every 3 seconds, and it always has to write before the database writer. Okay, write ahead. Then there's the write ahead protocol that states that the log writer always has to write before the database writer. And this is true to the extent that whenever the database writer notices that there's some information that the log writer hasn't written down, it will notify the log writer to write before it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are already at the level of the process structures, and she spoke about the log writer. She also mentioned the DB writer, and I spoke about the user process and the server process. I'll just add to the server process. The server process is responsible for authentication, as they have just said, and it's the same server process that brings down the SQL statement to the data file, even to the buffer cache, and it's the same SQL server process that copies the change in the data file, in the data block, made in the data blocks to the redo log file. So with that said and done, we move to another process structure that is SMON and PMON.
Hello everyone. I'm going to talk about SMON and PMON. SMON is actually a background process responsible for instance recovery. What do I mean? What I mean is, in case we have something like in our control file, the system change number doesn't match with that of the data file. That's when the process of SMON will come in order to recover our instance. SMON is also like, I want to quote.
That's okay for SMON. You can go to
Okay, PMON. PMON is also a background process responsible for process recoveries. Like in a case where our user will have a user process that wasn't terminated. PMON will come in to make sure that it cleans up unused user processes from our memory structure, because it does so because the memory structure, our memory, we need memory in order for our database to run smoothly. PMON is also responsible to provide logs for transactions that are being currently used. For instance, if somebody logged into an app and then somebody else is coming in to request that same statement, PMON is responsible to put the log into that statement to make sure that the person that is at the moment requesting for that statement gets that statement out before the next person can come in. PMON is also like, PMON and SMON, for instance, they are like, you see, we have a police in our county. They are responsible to make sure that there is peace in our county, stuff like that. So that's basically what PMON and SMON does. Thank you.
Chinedu is going to talk on the checkpoint.
Hi guys. Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about the checkpoint here. Like my first said about the PMON and the SMON, is basically like, like a security and all that. So here the checkpoint is a process structure that defines the change number, that's the SCN. It advises the DB writer on how to write on the database, and it updates the control file and also updates the database data file. So yeah, and it updates the ready log position, and they are crucial elements of recovery. So when my example is when the checkpoint occurs, Oracle database must update the headers of each files, because you can have like 3 or 4 data files. Sorry. So when the checkpoint occurs, every data file must update. So it updates the regular file. The shifting of a checkpoint position in the regular file is known as incremental checkpointing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that done, I spoke about the listener first. It's also part of the process structure as daemon process. The listener, he does network checking. Before any SQL statement has to get into the server, the listener has to do network checking. So with that said and done, I'll call on
I'm giving you guys 2 minutes or so.
I'll call on Aaron. Aaron is going to talk on the data file.
You guys cover the same materials.
Good evening, class. Without taking too much more
Cover the
time,
same material.
a data file is simply data file that stores
Same time.
the user or application data of the database, the metadata, and the data dictionary. So it stores these 3 things. What is data dictionary? It contains information about the origin of the data, the meaning, and the relationship between the different data. And I want to understand that data file forms part of the physical storage structure of the database storage architecture. And it exists logically in the table space. That is within the logical storage structure. And then how is it read? It's read in memory, where the user will have to go through the server process, then the buffer cache, and then this is where they are stored. Thank you.
With that said and done, we don't really have much time, so I'll just try to conclude with the stuff that is left. We spoke about the data file, and we also have the control file, and the control file contains information about the structure of the data in the database. So it's very important too for recovery because it contains the SCN number, the SCN of the database. So with that done with the control file, I'll also talk about the parameter file. The parameter file is the first file that is read when an install has to start. When I have to start up an instance, that is what the parameter file that is contains data that must be read before the instance starts. So I'll move on to the redo log file. The redo log file contains data blocks that are necessary for recovery. But in case we have a crash in our database, the redo log file will help us to recover. Okay, we then move. We have the archival process. The archival process will. The archival process, like the archival helps write redo log files, data blocks from the redo log file into the archive log file. And the archival log files are important for for recovery, like a point in time recovery. Yeah. So in case you need data that has been you need data at a particular point, the archival log file is responsible for that. And we also thank you.
Good job. Hand over, good job.
The last group. You guys won't be able to pass today because Prof is already here. So, yeah. On Wednesday. The last group will pass on Wednesday. You guys should come on time. And I hope that Prof is here.
You good?
And I will be expecting much more from you guys.
Now that's a lot of pressure.
If you guys don't do better than the 2 other groups, I'll tell Prof, and I'll give everyone 0.
I didn't get you.
All of the whole class or just
the group?
No, since we asked you for the whole just let us go.
If you don't do better,
15 minutes.
you guys should do better.
Let's do it now.
Let's do it now.
You want to do it now?
That's a lot of pressure.
No, let's do it now.
You guys will do better. Come on.
Let's do it now.
Okay, go ahead. Come then. And you learn from what they did. Okay.
He said we supposed to go into details on what people were talking about.
I mean, just like
I said keep everything in agreement. I didn't know.
What is there? I don't know. You can see that, but it depends on the price. Your choice.
So this is the buffer group, right?
We're gonna send you to the file.
Good evening, class. So we are going to talk about the structure, the architecture of database. Database is an electronic system used by organization to store data in the structured way for easy access. Okay, so Oracle database is instance plus data file. Memory structure. We're also going to talk about the memory, the process, and the storage. And we're going to start with Jazz, who's going to introduce SharePoint. Mr. Jazz. Oh, then we just pass them. Next week. No, don't do that.
Wednesday.
We just pass
Are you not scared of
The class was not giving me feedback. I'm always as independently minded as possible. But she scored it, and I was there for the last two presentations in the morning. They were excellent. Could not have asked for more. Everybody participated on time, knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They had moderators who did everything. The same thing I told her. Why somebody scored 9 and another person scored 2 or 3? He said it's extremely bad. So I've cancelled all the things you did today. You have a second chance to redeem yourselves on Wednesday. You might take it seriously or not. Does that make sense? Everything that you did today has been cancelled. So you're going to start afresh on Wednesday. But we cannot continue like this. You saw when she called me out, I had to make that comment. that you were there in the morning. Do not, if you were here, you would have stopped it a long time ago. It's preparedness. You want to do it or not. I know a few people are trying to do, the others are dragging them back, but that's not how this class is supposed to go. We are supposed to do that together. They have the same resources. They read from the same notes and prepared together. Yes.
Yes, so she also told us that the groups was so much smaller than ours. And the time, I feel like the time wasn't enough for us.
I don't really think it's time, because if something is going good, it will go good for maybe the first two. We'll be cut with time, but something good will be cut by time. Does you understand what I mean? We're doing something good and it's cut by time, it is not bad. It is time cut us short. When somebody, when those kind of things happen and there's so much disparity, you start wondering what happened. The groups were, there was a group of, I think, 12. There's a group, I saw two. One was of about 12, the other one was of about 15, if I counted them correctly. But there was no group that was less than 10. The two groups that I saw in the morning. It was 15, but the moderator had a piece of paper and he called name by name, and before they called you, they were already, the person who was picking next was already standing. So there was no excuse me. They planned, they prepared, you will speak first, and that's all it says, right? Go read this thing, come and we'll present it, you will present it for 2 minutes. You will speak first, you will speak second, you will speak third, you will speak, and then she writes them down. And she just calls. By the time she calls, you know when you're going to speak, you know what was coming. Somebody's job in that class was just to draw that architecture completely, then the next person was demonstrating while another person was talking. It showed that there was some planning put in it. I don't want to find out what happened, but the issue is you did not meet, or some people met, others did not come. Some people got their topics just on a few minutes before class, and so on and so on. That's all what happened, because if you met and discussed this, you will know it. It will flow. A group that did not have members did not come. They had texted, they were very worried. Morning class had members of our group did not come. We just shifted them to say, okay, you guys will go on Wednesday since you're not ready. And they had valid reasons for the two members who were not there. Again, we have the chance to redeem ourselves. We'll do it again on Wednesday. And we'll start fresh. So if you know how many members of your group are, it's enough to go around. And if we just organize ourselves, one of my best groups in this school have been 23 people. The best groups ever have been 23 people. So log onto your servers. We're going to create a database now with the installations of
You're almost done. Click the Add to Chrome button, then click Add Extension to...
Did anybody, or how many persons have not installed? Have not installed the Oracle software on their machine?
There's one guy
That's the problem.
That's the problem with it.
Did you look at it and see what was wrong with it?
Yeah.
What happened?
It shows that it's saying
No, I don't want to look at it. I just want you to tell me what it is.
It says unable to create a new central inventory at specified location.
Unable to create?
Unable to create a new central inventory at a specified location.
Okay, how many times did you try to install? Have you tried to install?
Twice.
Huh?
Twice.
So it's successfully installed the first time and the second time it's trying to install again.
So we started it and we went to the end. You know, towards the end where it asks for the two parts to go and then take finish and that's it. So when you went there, you pressed another key and everything cancelled.
So the installation completed, but he did not run those two scripts, right?
Yeah.
And then he went now again and tried to install it again. That's why, so he's saying that that first inventory already exists. So the installation is there, you should not be doing it again. If it's correct, they will run those two scripts. You can run them anytime, doesn't matter. Just to log in as root and then run the two scripts. Or inst root and root.sh. And the installation should be fine. If you have gone to that stage, where you understand, he's trying to do it again and it says that inventory is already occupied. Because yes, because we have installed it the first time. Does that make sense? Are you understanding what I'm saying?
You understand?
Good. So log in as root and run those two scripts.
Which are the two scripts?
The one that you ran.
I ran it already.
So you don't know where it is?
I don't know where it is.
U01 Oracle or inventory. Then the next one is in the Oracle home. So it is U01 app Oracle product blah blah blah. You will see the script. You can see the into those directories and see those scripts that run them.
All right.
Okay. Now that everybody has the installation, I'm going to. We're going to use that installation to create databases. Does that make sense? Does it make sense?
Yes.
All right. So I will work with student what? 544. We will do all the typing, correct? Very good. Colon 5901. Just like I told you before, you cannot create a Word document, you cannot create an Excel spreadsheet if you don't have the Microsoft Office package, correct? Correct? Correct. You cannot create a database if you don't have the Oracle database software installed. Does that make sense? So the database that you've installed is just the Oracle database software. Are we good? So let us know it's, sometimes people are confused like, which one is the software? Which one is the database? You use the software to create the database. Are we good? Are we? Yes. All right, so. Can you try to do it again? You're 544, right? 04. Oh, 504. No. Wow. I'm seeing it on someone else's machine.
I gotta wait till
544. Okay. Okay. When you buy a new product, and for example, if you buy a finance product, that finance product is installed as the vanilla product, which means the uncustomized product. You buy an HR software, the database for those are uncustomized. They are generic. They make it such that any company can use it. What does that mean? A finance product will be sold to University of Maryland. That same finance product will be sold to CBS. That same finance product will be sold to Bank of America. But it takes a while for you to convert that finance product to your finance. For example, if you buy a finance software and let's say you sell it to University of Maryland, you produce one, you sell it to University of Maryland, they will take it and customize it, and when they are creating departments, the departments will be humanities, the departments will be social sciences, the department will be Department of Science or Faculty of Science, it will be law and engineering and medicine, correct? Correct? Yes. When you sell that software to Bank of America and they are customizing it and they are creating their departments are going to be savings, the department will be loans, will be credit cards, the department will be different other things. Does that make sense? And if you sold that same software to Safeway, the company, when they are doing it, their departments will be grocery and dairy and bakery and whatever, pharmacy. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. All right. So when you buy the vanilla product, it's not good enough. You cannot just start using it. You must customize it to the kind of business you are doing. And that's what the developers do. All right? So when you buy the vanilla product, vanilla simply means off the shelf. We have not touched it. You will create an environment and put that product in there, and that environment is called the DMO environment. FN just stands for finance. It could either be HR or customer relationship management. Of this vanilla product, you are going to create another database, and you're going to call it the FNDEV, development. That is where the customizations take place. That is where the developers are working day in, day out, trying to customize it to your business. If you develop something, which means you make some changes, you must test it, and you test it in a TST environment. All right? After you test it, this is called unit testing. You must make sure that they work together. You do what we call universal acceptance testing, which means everything works together. And if it passes the user acceptance testing or universal testing, you take it to production. This is called system development life cycle. Every environment that you go to, you are going to see that the finance database, the HR database, the customer relationship management database, the supply chain management database, and all other databases, they have a system development lifecycle. It means when they bought it and we install it here, it was directly off the shelf. We'll create an environment and we are not going to use this environment to develop. We're not going to be making changes in this environment. We'll make a copy of this original environment and call it FN Dev. We can change the name of the database and call it FN Dev. In the development, and give the developers, they have access here. And they will connect to that database and begin to do their work. What do the developers do? They do customization. Right? What is the customization? You're altering it to suit your business, correct? So they do customizations and making changes. If they make changes here, they must come in here and do tests. And those who test are testers. They're also developers because they are moving it over here. The type of testing that is done in here is called unit testing. What is called unit testing? You are testing just a specific unit, just what you are working on. For example, let's say we go to a car assembly plant. In the development shop, there's somebody working on the steering, and they will test and work only on that steering. They will take the steering, will test if it is smooth enough. There is somebody working on the chair. They will take that test here and test if that chair can go back and forth or can move left and right if that's what they want. There's somebody here who's working on the wheel, and they can say, okay, this wheel is smooth enough to go 200 miles per hour. Does that make sense? What you develop here, you test here, just that unit. But in this test here, it is called universal testing, which means the steering has to go and turn that way. You have to run payroll, which means it will touch this department, so if one is broken, it's not going to work. Does that make sense? Unit testing, and here is universal testing. It's called UAT. So, who are those with access here? Testers, of course, it's still a test environment. Analysts. Analysts also have access there. We've talked about these users before, right? We saw them on our 1 tier, 2 tier, 3 tier. And eventually, we have to go to production. And who are the users in production? We call them end users. In fact, I'll call this go live. So anything here is called live. So we have our end users. And these are end users. They are the customers and the clients. This is development takes place here, which is called what? Customization. Testing takes place here, where it's done, it's called unit testing. Further testing takes here, but there are different kinds of testing. You're testing the specific unit that you're working on. Here, you are testing that it all works together. Does that make sense? Access here is an analyst and also production. There is somebody who has access to all of it. Who is that person?
DBA.
DBA. Because you support all of them. You support all of this environment. Yes.
Okay. So, for the testing, right, whatever you do in the testing, does that mean it's not safe in the production?
I don't understand. Say that again.
Because I'm just trying to understand, because where I work at.
No, you said, I want to go to your question.
Yeah.
Whatever is done to the testing.
To the testing, yes.
This or this?
To the test
Yes.
itself. Or let me just say, if you work in test, does it save to production?
No.
It doesn't
You
save.
will move it there.
Okay, now I understand. Because where I work at, to train people, we always use test. And then once you're done with the training, you go to live.
You are training in test. I will create here. I'll create a training database. Oh yes, up here. When I'm testing here, it has not been certified. The least you can train, if you want to train here, I understand. But I'll not train here. This is unit testing. This is so that they work together. So I can train you when everything is worked together. Then I can use that to train you. But for example, let's say they sell a patch now, right? This is a live system, correct? And finance, people saw finance, or SAP Finance sends us a patch. Where are we going to install the patch? Where? Which environment?
To install?
Install the patch.
in the test?
No. Every enhancement that you do must start in development. Because they must be, these are what? Playgrounds, right? Or testing environments so that they eventually go to production. When they are going to production, they've proven the concept here. Right? We have tested it here, it worked. We tested it here, it did not break anything. And then we move it out to production. If something is slow, and the fix is that I create an index, correct? And the index fixes it. I know what's going to fix it, but I must create it here. I must test it here and bring out test results that show that it did not break anything. I must do universal acceptance testing and make sure that the product works well with all other products that are associated with it before I can take it out to production. If I cannot prove this, it's called change management. You must follow how a change goes. Look, how many tables did I tell you that a database has? Maybe this is not the class. I sold about 80,000 tables. Thank you. Tables. I did not talk about views, which will double that size. So if you're not meticulously keeping track of which object is where, you're going to lose it. You have objects here which are not here. And trust me, there will be times when I'll say, press this guy on here. What does that mean? I'll come and override things that are here. You must have everything that's here. Change management is such a big deal. There are people whose job is just to make sure that everybody changes. All this Scrum matter, what do you think what they do? How about Scrum is? They manage the system development life cycle. They are coordinators. They could not manage. They are coordinators. The program manager manages. They are coordinators to make sure that where is this product at this point? It is here. What do you have to do? The whole meeting, take paper and go back and forth to make sure that this is being monitored. Because we can easily overwrite something which if it is here and it is not here. If we see a product here that's not here or here that is not here, you have failed QA. And that product cannot move forward.
So
yes.
If there's a product, in production, that means that's the last step.
It means it is live. It means the users are using it. If you log on to, let me ask you a question. If you go now to bankofamerica.com, which environment are you in?
In the production.
Very good. If you change your address, which environment are you changing? In production. You do not have access to any of these environments. But those who work in Bank of America as who? Developers, testers, and analysts, they prepare all of this to come bring into production so you can use it. That product that you see, just click and say, check this, print my balance sheet and all of those things. People have worked to develop it. Does that make sense? So it started with development. Right? And they customize to suit their business. They came to test, they tested it a lot. Came here, did UAT, universal and quality testing, and eventually we are now using it. You and I are using it as customers. But when you go in now, for the people who work in Bank of America as DBA, that is how they look at the finance application. We'll say, I have 10 databases, 10 environments. There's another one which you can call, I can easily have 10. You can have a sandbox here. You can have the distress testing, another one again. You can have a pre-production. Am I making any sense? I want you to see that to support one application, I can easily have 10 databases. Each of them are doing different things. What are we doing here? Customizations to suit our business. Does that make sense? When you buy a product, it takes sometimes 18 months to 24 months before that product will go live. What are we doing between that 18 months and 24 months? Developing testing until we go live. And even after it has gone live, guess what? Patches are still coming. Who knows what a patch is? A patch is what? Updates or what? Maintenance. It could be, yes, it could be maintenance. The software can send maintenance as a patch. Bug fixes, updates, and what?
Correct.
And what?
Correct.
No, those are fixes, bug fixes. Like something was wrong with this product, right? They're going to send the fix to us as a patch. Are we good? Even when we're doing customization, we're going to break things, right? We'll open ticket with them. They will also get the fix for us as a patch, and then we'll install it. Patches are used for what? There are three things to use patches for. Enhancements, which are updates, bug fixes, and security. Right? You see that even your antivirus keeps updating itself, right? That's them downloading a patch so that it helps with the latest release, because the bad guys are constantly working on their craft. Does that make sense? Question.
Okay. So we use Microsoft SL at my job.
Microsoft
SL.
Oh, Excel.
SL.
Oh, SL as an application or database.
Yes. So in that case, will we be, as accountants, will we be using the development or the production?
Accountants. You see, I don't even have accountants here.
So okay, so if you're trying to train people, because I know we've used tests before.
Yes, it is test, right? It could be UAT, and you are calling it test. But the person who is allocating you to that environment could be doing at UAT. You may not call it UAT at your company. Like I said, some people will call it QAT, quality assurance. But what I'm saying is, you do not use test here because it has not been ratified here. It is a concept. Every company has the way of calling it, but the names are the concept. What is done in development is development. This guy is close, but not here. You can ask why.
So another question, so like a person, database administrator that works at the company will have access to development, or would it just be?
So there's one person who has full access on all of them. Full. Which means, here, you have access more than the CEO. You can take it down. The CEO cannot. The CEO is what? It's a user. You have analysts here, but they have read only. They are read only. I'm the only one who can read data in the back end access. So this one's to the read write because they update the thing. But the analysts, when they go in from the back end, they can only read. So if they have a fix, that's who must fix it. DBA. They'll tell you what to fix and how to fix, and then you will fix. But we need to understand this thing called the system development lifecycle, because every shop, every database is based on something like this. So you will hear development and test, you will hear development and production and UAT, QAT. They are just environments where we have the same product, but we are doing different things with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in this case, like we installed the Oracle database, right?
No, we installed the Oracle software. We've not yet created a database.
Okay, the Oracle software.
Yes.
That means we just have to go through this path, or this.
The Oracle database that we have right now does not have an application on it. It is a core database with 5 or 6, which we are going to install, which we are going to create today. It's a core database, which is just a core. There is no application attached to it. It will come with 5 or 6 table spaces called what? System. That's all what? Metadata, right? 6 OCs, right? 10. There is no application on it.
So in this case, when you're going through this path and you have issues, can you contact like the main people?
Who is the main people?
Like the Oracle, the people you bought it from.
They own the product. That's why we call Oracle support, right? We said the certain trace, you can have a trace file and you cannot interpret it. You must call Oracle support to interpret the trace file for you. This one might decide not to write, and you will find out, and you say, you open the file, it's in binary. You see zeros and ones, but when you take it to them, they'll say, your P1 has this or that or that or that, stop it and start it again. System development lifecycle, you need to understand. So for one application, you may go and start supporting 8 applications, you may have maybe 100 databases to support. The others are just what? They are supporting that main production. Are we good? Why did I say this? I want to say this because when we create our databases, I want them to start reflecting. Does that make sense? So when you create your first database today, it's going to be called Your initials, DMO. Does that make sense? So just use your initials and then DMO. That's going to be the name of your database. But I want our database to be called DMO, Dev, Test, UAT, TRN, Product, Prop, you know? You start getting the name or a feel of what the real environment should be. Are we good? All right. The Oracle product comes with a lot of tools. What are these tools used for? These tools are used for managing. They are used for running this database. It has configuration assistance. For example, you want to create a database, we'll have a tool called the Database Configuration Assistant. All right? You want to create a listener, you have something called a Network Configuration Assistant. You want to create almost everything. You want to do backup, you have RMAN. You want to manage, you will have Enterprise Manager. So it comes with a lot of tools that makes DBA's life really, really easy. There are tools that write scripts for you, like we're going to see today. All right? So I want us to call up a tool. But before we do that, we must log in as the Oracle user. All right? So switch user to Oracle. SU space minus space Oracle. SU space minus space Oracle. Enter. Oracle's class password is class26. Good. All right, now we are the Oracle user. I want us to verify real quick if we are pointing to the right Oracle home, right? I want us to verify real quick if we are pointing to the right Oracle home, and we should just do a quick echo $, Oracle _home. Those that are put in capital letters are in capital letters. Echo $, Oracle, nope. That's what I wrote. Look at the board. Exactly what I write.
So that's echo space $.
Here? Is this not legible enough?
It's not on the scope. It's on the scope.
Is it on the screen?
Exactly as I wrote here. Underscore is here, it is there. What is going on? I'm not taking it easy. You will suffer at work when somebody is telling you something you cannot take simple instructions. I just feel sorry because you come back and don't know what has happened. Is that how I wrote it? Check. If that's how I wrote it, then hit enter. Then hit enter. I want to see if you are pointing to the right Oracle home. All right? And is this our Oracle home? Is this where we install our software? Yes. So, we can continue doing this or we can continue the class. I've already finished it in the morning. All right. We have many different tools that we are going to use. To create a database, we are going to use a tool called the Database Configuration Assistant. All right, Database Configuration Assistant. To call up that tool, irrespective of where we are going to type DBCA. All right. So go ahead and type D, B, C, A. Hit enter. We are trying to call up a tool. Database configuration assistant.
Small letters.
Welcome to Database Configuration Assistant for the Oracle database. We are beginning to push it. If I write DBCA and it's causing all this noise, if you guys want to do this thing, I'll just walk out. I cannot teach people are talking. I cannot. So if you want us to continue, let me know. At this point, I think I'm fed up. Give 4 letters, and it has to take 2 more to type 4 letters, and I write them on the board. Cannot teach this way. Please, if you're going to be talking, then let me go or you go. One of the two. People are here who have paid and they want to listen. And by the time this is going back there, they are different letters because you are talking selfishly. All right. Welcome to Database Configuration Assistant for the Oracle database. A database configuration assistant can enable you to create a database. We brought up this too because what we are trying to do today is create a database. You can also configure database options in an existing database, which means if you have a database already and you want to add additional features, you can come back here. If you have a database that you don't want, you may delete it, and you can also manage database templates. Managing templates means that we can create a template and say, DBAs, when you create a database in this environment, in this office, they should all have use the same template. And all your databases will be identical. All right, I'm going to click on next. All right, we want to create a database, but it's not giving us the option to configure or delete because we do not have databases yet. So go ahead and click on next. All right. If you look at what it's saying here, the question is, what kind of database do you want to create? What kind of database do you want to create? If you want to create a database for general purpose transaction processing, we said it's good for most databases. And what's the block size that is going to use? 8 kilobytes. All right? You can customize it, which means you want to make multiple block sizes when you are creating this database. Or you may go for a data warehouse where you would use bigger block sizes. But you cannot change the block size of a database when you have already created it. Can you add an NK? Yes. You can only add something to that one, but you cannot change the original block size of any database. So we are choosing our general purpose transaction processing, which is saying that create us 8K blocks when you're using it. Are we good? General purpose transaction processing has been selected. Let's click on next. Please don't try to click twice. If you click twice, it's going to skip one of these. So just click it once. It may take a few seconds, but it will get there. Next is saying that I want you to give me your database names, right? That's why I went through the SDLC to say that our name should mean something. So please, as your name is XX, your database should be what? X, X, D, M, O. Note, I put all of them in uppercase. Your initials, D, M, O. You can use 3 initials or 2.
Uppercase data.
Note that because we are doing a single instance installation, we're not doing rack, correct? What is the difference? Single instance is one instance points to one database, which means the instance name is the same as the database name. That's why when you put in a database name, the instance name populates immediately. Does that make sense? Our instance name on a single instance configuration is the same name as the database name. You can use them, we normally would use them interchangeably, except in a rack environment where we have multiple instances, one database. Our instance name will be our database name. All right? Please note your database name and note the case, because these are all very case sensitive. All right, click on next. What we are doing is we're trying to build scripts that are going to be used to create a database. When we create these databases, we have tools that we can use to manage those databases. In fact, we can only teach these things successfully because we have those tools. All right? So we are going to, I want you to, the tool which is trying to install now is Enterprise Manager. But Enterprise Manager will not work if we do not have a listener. So we are not even qualified to get an Enterprise Manager now. When we go have a listener in chapter 6, we'll come back and do Enterprise Manager. So I need you to uncheck, configure Enterprise Manager. Uncheck that. Nope, I did not say go to next. The next tab says automatic maintenance tasks, which means the DBA should have jobs that do maintenance automatically. All right? So go to automatic maintenance task, click on there. And I want you to uncheck that. Chapter 12 is called database maintenance. We will go and enable it when we mean to, not just now when we don't know what is the maintenance is about. So uncheck that too and say next. All right. Very important in the database and almost every software system is security. But there are some users that, especially these two administrative users, they have the highest level of privileges in a database. These are extremely well protected users. The sys and the system user account, they are administrative users. You are the only one who's going to have these passwords for your database, be it development or production environment. If you do not know this password that you are going to create now, we cannot change your password again because you don't remember it. So I'm going to try to make this password simple. I'm going to use the same administrative password for all accounts. I'll check on that. And I'm going to make the password very easy. I'll call it Brontech1. The password will be BRONTECH number 1. That's the password, Brontech1, and you will repeat it, Brontech1. Please note that this thing is case sensitive. Please note that passwords are case sensitive. So make sure you are in lowercase and type it just like I did. Brontech1. That's the password. Confirm the password Brontech1. That's a very easy password, so the system is going to complain. Click on next. So it says that that password is not strong enough because those users are extremely powerful. But for your and my sanity, let's leave it at Brontech1. Do you want to continue? Say yes. All right. So if you want to continue, say yes. So our passwords will stay at Brontech1. All right. I told you that there were our servers are configured from 2 existing servers like this. There was one machine which has U01. There's no dot in here. All right. There's one machine which you said they were like this. And we said on this machine, we leverage what? /U01, and that's where the Oracle software is installed. What was this?
Storage.
/ what?
Oracle.
Aura data. What do we say was going to be in the Aura data? Our database, which is a bunch of files. So that's what it's asking us here. We are doing the file system type of storage, and it says we should use common location for all database files. I want you to check on that. Use common location. Use common location for all database files, and on there I want you to type /Aura data. Just type /Aura data. Say that that's our storage. That's where our files should go to. /Aura data. I did not put the slash at the end. Did I?
Yeah.
Did I put a slash at the end?
Yeah.
No. Yes.
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 No. Yes.
No, the beginning, right? Yes. Did I put a slash at the end? No.
The beginning, yes.
Someone
The end, no.
argued, yes. Did I put a slash at the end?
No.
Wow. I don't think it's a matter of today. All right. File system is a kind of storage we're using. /Aura data is the destination of our database files. Next. All right. The information on here pertains to backups. I don't want us to touch anything now or try to do anything because we're not on chapter 14 yet. All right? So just click next. Everything here is wrong, but we want to leave it wrong until when we go to chapter 14, then we'll fix it. Just click on next. All right. I want us to check where it says sample schemas. Sample schemas are some examples of tables. There's an HR schema that if we check this guy, it's going to come with our database, so we can use it for play data. Does that make sense? We use it for teaching purposes. So select, yes, check this sample schema. So you will come with a table space called example, and that table space will contain a lot of information, a lot of tables that we can play with. Are we good? Are we? All right. Click on next. Okay. Here it says memory sizing. Remember, we have to request memory. Request memory from who? We'll request memory from who? From the operating system, sir. Thank you. All right. How much memory are we going to request? We must specify. All right. It says here 795 based on a certain percentage of the memory that's available to it now. Change that to 400. Change the 795 to 400. 400. Why am I changing that? So we should have the ability to create many more databases. All right. Some people have had 8, 9, 10 in their thing. Again, we're going to allow automatic memory management. We know what that means, right? You know that it's going to allow Oracle to resize buffer cache and shared pool if it sees the need to. All right? I want you to go to sizing. Sizing. Sizing on here, simply grade this out so that we selected our 8K blocks. That's 8 kilobytes, right? 8,000 bytes. So that's the 8K block. Note how we cannot change it. The number of processes that you are going to demand from the operating system is also 150. We can change it. Are we good? In fact, we'll be changing them sometime later this week. So you can change these parameters. Go to character sets. okay, is defaulted to American English. All right? If you are using a database where you use multiple languages where Chinese and Japanese have to be inside, Unicode is better. You will tell it, says this, what is it? Changing the character set to Unicode or setting the character set to Unicode enables you to store multiple language groups. Does that make sense? So, but we're going to stick with American, whatever that is. Go to connection mode. Do you recognize any of these? Do you? Dedicated server mode or shared server mode. What is dedicated server mode? What would that mean? One user process to. All right. Because we are working as the DBA, what should we use? It's not here.
Oh, it's dedicated.
We must use dedicated server mode where we'll have a server process handling your transaction. You are the DBA, so you cannot use shared server mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So I need you to go to next. All right. Very important. Watch what I do. Very important. It is important that you know where your files are. And we are going to tell it where our files will be. Where do we say our data files will go to? Statutory data. Does that make sense? That's right. So our data files will be in statutory data. So I'll do something like this. I'll go to, it says, our data files are what? The control file, the data files, and the redo log groups, right? So I'll go to control files. You see where it is putting us now? It says, control file will try to configure control file number 1 and control file number 2. I don't want them to be anywhere. Remember, I'm doing file system and I want my files to be in the location when I'm going to create them in. All right? So, for Bernadette, I will go ahead and, you see the last one where it says /auditor/BFDMO? All right. So I'll just do a control C there to copy it. All right? If you cannot do that, you type it. All right? And I'll go here and I'll control V to paste it, but I want them to look like this. Do whatever it takes to make it look like this. If you want to erase it and type it, be my guest. If you want to use a pen and write into your computer, be my guest.
Control V.
Control C, Control V paste. Control, on va d'abord tu sélectionnes le dernier. Control V, Control C.
Note, you are specifying where you want your file to be. You want control 01 to be where? /ORADATA/your database name. You want control file number 2 to be where? /ORADATA/your database name. These are computer basics. Is what is distracting the class. Computer basics. Copy and paste. All right. If we have put in the location, in fact, just go and type it. It will be better than trying to learn control. If you have put your control files in here, let's go to the data files. Click on your data files. So, I'm moving this guy a little bit to the right, just so that we'll see the full file names. Yes. But again, I want these guys to be in /ORADATA/database name. Guess what? I'll do my control V. And here, Again, you are taking control of the database and say the files are going to be where you want them to be. So when I'm going to look for my files, for whatever reason, I'm not in doubt where I'm going to look for them. Does that make sense? I am going to look for them exactly where they should be. I put them there. You must learn this manual operation, because when Oracle starts throwing its files all over the place, it can be really tricky. But we are putting it here because at some point when we go into this database, we'll say, show me of these files. Where are they? We need them there. If you have to go and physically look at the file for whatever reason, you know where exactly the file should be at.
Yeah, that's not all.
All right. Let's go to redo log groups. You're going to click the plus sign so that you see group 1, group 2, and group 3. Go to group 1. Again, put your thing in there. Control V. Group 2. Group 3. Do it correctly, make sure that they are in that directory. If you copied the first one incorrectly, know that everything is wrong, correct? Good.
So how did you get there?
I click now to get to where? I'm still on redo, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to verify that all my files are where I want them to be, /oradata/database name /. I go to control file. Let's see where they are, /oradata/database name /. My control files, I go to my data files, they are all there, /oradata/database name /. I go to redo group 1, /oradata/database name / and group 2 and group 3. That's where I want them to be. Next, click on next. All right. It says that we've gotten to the stage where it has enough information to create a database. But I don't want it to just create a database. I want it to also generate the scripts that will be used to create this database. So we can use that script and create other databases without even going through this DBCA. Check that box and write down the location where it's going to create those scripts. But when I say go look for your scripts, I want you to go to this location. So write that location down. /U01 app oracle admin database name scripts. Write down the name of this location where it will send your scripts to. We will be going into that location to take a look at those scripts. /U01 app oracle admin database name scripts. At this point, I want you to click on finish. It is going to give you a summary of what you wanted. So look at this, that's your database name that you want. If you see anything there that you don't want, you have the right to get out of it. It's a single instance database name. We did not check the management type, so that should be no management type. We are using file system and we're using automatic storage management, and keep going down. You see your control files are in there. If you talk about the initialization parameters, you selected 8K blocks, that's what it's going to use. These are what? Parameters. Does that make sense? Parameters. Remember, I was talking about parameters. Parameters are stored in what file? In the parameter file. Yeah, these people. So you guys go for a weekend and come back and then everybody has forgotten everything. You were singing parameter file last week. This weekend is not helping, eh? All right. The number of processes, you see 150 there. That's what we selected at that time, right? All right. Our character set is the language type, and our data files, you can see them. That's where we put them. That's where we wanted them to be at. And our control files, that's where we also wanted them to be at. Our new log groups 1, 2, 3. Now you can click OK. Click OK. What it will do first is it will generate the script for you. And if it says the generation of the script la 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 is successful, then that's fine. Then you can click OK again, and then it will start creating your database. Then you just let it go. You click the first OK, and it will generate the script. And when you say OK, it now starts creating your database. If it gives you an error, read the error. If it gives you an error, read the error, and you will see that whatever you're looking for is sitting right there in that error. Who has an error? Read it, let's see. Who's is creative? Whose one is creative? Who has an error? The class is error free. All right. Okay. Because everybody's creating, it may take a while. So take a break and we'll come back in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. What happened to it again? The installation did not go through. Student one. He says that the log files are located there. So if yours for some reason did not work, that's where you need to do the troubleshooting. It's also saying that this database was created with a parameter file called the SP file, and that's the SP file database name.oracle. All right? All database accounts except the sys and the system are locked. You can select the password management and to go and unlock those accounts, but we don't want to do them right now. We'll unlock the accounts when we need them. So everything but your sys and system accounts so far are locked. If you want to check your log files for any reason, anything in the computer, whether it's what installation, they must be writing somewhere. The best part about it, they write log files, and those log files we can use whenever we want to troubleshoot. All right? So you can now click exit. And it will take us out of your database configuration assistant. So it has created more than likely it has created a database. I'm going to change the class. I will teach morning and leave it like that. Somebody else will teach you in the evening. I cannot do it. Mature people cannot respect themselves, so I just made that decision. But it's okay. Other people have thought you will still teach you and you still pass if you focus. I just cannot kill myself. All right. To connect to a database, we know, like I've told you, we are going to have multiple databases. For example, a database will say prod, one will say demo, one will say dev. How do you know what database you want to connect to? For example, if I want to connect to test, how do I know that it is a test database that I want to connect to? I could be pointing to demo. So there is something which you call setting the environment. When you set an environment, you have to tell it what database you want to point to. All of this can exist on one server. How do you know how to move from here? If I say take something from here and put it here, you must go in here, extract that object, then you come and connect here and put that object here. Remember, I kept saying, you develop it here, you move it here. How are you going to move it? You want to extract it and move it there. So we must be pointing to different databases all the time. So to do that, we call it setting the database environment. To set a database environment, the command is /space or env. Right. So to set an environment, /space or env. That's how to set environment. Then you are going to specify the location where you want to point your database to. To set our environment, the command is /space or env. So go ahead and type /space or env. Hit enter. So it asks you, the database you are trying to connect to, is it called DB11G? No. It's called the name that you put in there, right? Mm-hmm. Good. So put your database name here in all caps or exactly like you put it. Put your database name in here. All right, and hit enter. All right. If it can locate your Oracle home, like here, you are good. It will say the Oracle home for that database, or the Oracle base for the Oracle home is, so that is the Oracle base. We said U01 APP Oracle base, that's where your inventory is, right? The software is where U01 APP Oracle product 11 to DB_1. If you now you are pointing to the right database. So if I come in and I want to go to test, what do? /space or env, and they will ask me that question. Is it a database? Then I'll put the database name, and now I'm with that one. Wherever you put your current database name, whichever one. So you must be checking. The issue is that the screens all look exactly the same. So you can do the right thing in the wrong environment very, very easily. So some commands I look at as commands for life, which means I will type pwd 1 million times, I will type ls minus l 1 million times. They don't do anything, they just show you where you are, they direct you. You are in this database, you are in this database, you are in this location, that's where you want to execute. You cannot delete from here, you can do this from here. So those are the commands that you want to execute all the time because it tells you what database you are pointing to. Does that make sense? Set in the environment. All right. After we have question.
Yeah. So if you want to go to dev,
it's .or env.
and then put dev. Or
you put the database name. If the database name is what's the name of the database? Dev?
No.
What's the name of the database?
It's my database name.
That's what you put.
For everything. So for everything, if I want to go to test, it's going to be the same thing.
No, it doesn't. There is no test. You create a database and call it whatever you want to call it, test, right? And if that database exists, you want to go there, you will put that database name. Why are we putting this? Bernadette has a database called BRDMO. She does she have a test? No, so she cannot go to a test when it does not exist. Until she creates that test, then if she wants to go there, she'll put now the test name there. That's why I say you can have up to that 10. You can have up to 10. Not even up to 10, even more, as long as you have what? The resources to accommodate the database. But when it asks you for that Oracle seed name, you put in your database name. All right. Now we are going to try to establish a connection to the database. We are going to connect as the most powerful user of that database. So we are going to type on that prompt. We are going to call the tool to connect is SQL Plus. So we're going to type SQL Plus space as space sys DBA. SQL Plus / as sys DBA.
That is to
connect to the database. The tool we are going to use to connect is called SQL Plus. SQL Plus space / space as sysdba. Sysdba is the user with the most privileges in an Oracle database. Sysdba is the user with the highest level of privileges in an Oracle database. SQL Plus space / space as space sysdba. Hit enter. So we're logged into there, connected to that database. Created a database. We are on the server. So what kind of connection is this? One-tier connection. We are inside the server. That's where we're launching the terminal from. All right. The language has changed. Right now, if you don't know SQL, you are stuck. You must talk SQL because that's the language that the database understands. For example, if I want to find out the name of this database, I'm going to type select name from the database. I'm selecting it from a data dictionary, one of the data dictionary views. I'll explain to you at some point what views are. But it's just from a data dictionary table which has the name of the database. Note that every SQL statement ends with a semicolon. Every SQL statement will end with a semicolon. The semicolon says the statement has ended. I've gotten to the end of my statement. Every SQL statement will end with a semicolon. The semicolon says, this is the end of my statement. All right. A database can be in different states. A database can be in a no-mount state, which means we have an idle instance. It means the instance is not associated with the database. Does that make sense? If you associate the instance with a database, what's that called? It's called that you have mounted that database, and after that, what other state can we have? The database can be open. All right? So we can have an idle instance, you can have the instance mounted to the database, and you can also have an open database, which means when it's for users to be able to get into your database, you must. For your users, I'm trying to go as slowly as possible. So you stop talking to your neighbor who calls me and says they disturb them all the time. People don't find it funny. I've typed one sentence. I'm talking and talking and talking so that what is wrong, you will get it. If you type it, he gives you something wrong, it means you did not spell something correctly. Just look it and spell it again. He says, what should you type, what should you type? And I'm teaching. We are adults again. A database can be in 3 states. The instance can just be started. In that case, we have an idle instance. If you associate it with a database, we call that mounting. And if it's after it's mounted, it can open. All right. I want to find out the status of the database at this time, the status of the instance at this time. To find out the status of the instance, I can do is select status from v $ instance. Tells me that my instance is open. An instance being open means that users can read from it. Users with the right access can write to it. End users are those we call users. Irrespective of the state, only the DBA can connect when it's in the no mount state and in the mount state. Only the DBA can go in there to do administrative work. But after it has gone past these states, anybody can go in. We end a SQL statement with a semicolon. Just type what I tell you to type. Say. Forward, select status from v $ instance, semicolon. What are you doing wrong? You look for the thing that's wrong, not tell me what is wrong. Look for what I have typed. Is it exactly the same like what he typed? You have done something wrong. Figure it out. And it's always what? Typo. I cannot be looking for typos. All right. There are different ways we can shut down a database. It is more important that you understand than that you do. All right? There are different ways of shutting down the database. The first way is a consistent shutdown. What does that mean? It means that Checkpoint advises DB writer to write all the information that was in memory to the data files. It will bring the files in a consistent mode. The files will close, the instance will dismount, and your database and the instance will shut down. The database will close and the database will shut down. The instance will shut down. There are 3 different methods of shutting down that database which are consistent. You can do a shutdown immediate, shutdown normal, shutdown transactional. We'll talk about all of those on Wednesday. There's another method of shutting down a database like a crash. You can call that a shutdown abort. It crashes the database. It's just like you unplug power from the server. The database will crash. Are we good? So I want us to always recommended that we do a consistent shutdown. Why? We'll try to avoid recovery when we're starting up. Because if there is we cannot perform recovery, then we're in big trouble. So whenever you have a chance to shut down the database, you can shut it down in a consistent manner. What does a consistent manner means? It means that checkpoint will take place. What is checkpoint? Telling the DB writer to write all the information that is in the buffer cache and not yet found in the data files. It brings that files to a consistent state, which means it does not need recovery whenever we try to start up that file, start up that database again. It brings all the database files to a consistent method. So I'm going to do a shutdown immediate. A shutdown immediate is a consistent method of shutting down the database. So I'll type shutdown immediate. If you do a shutdown immediate, the database does not just drop down instantly. What happens? The database takes its time, makes sure that it writes, and then you look at the sequence of how it goes down. All right? It does. It's taking its time. Its checkpoint is taking place, wrote through the files, close the file, dismounted the database, and then shut down the instance. Yes.
In that case, I noticed you didn't put a semicolon.
Yes, I do not. It is not considered a real SQL statement, and I'll explain to you. Good. If you make a mistake, you hold on. You take good notes so that the rest of the class who did not make mistakes can follow up the class. You made a mistake and did what? Hit enter before you put a semicolon.
Yeah, I didn't put the semicolon.
But we say you should put it now, so you don't put it anywhere. What do you want to do? Tell you how to fix it?
No, I've been trying to put it in color.
Put the semicolon.
I tried, but it still gives me another like.
Put the semicolon.
I put it on the second one.
You see now you're taking class time. The fix is to put a semicolon, and he says, no, I have tried it, and it did not work. So you really want me to do what? Stop class to come and put semicolon. You hit enter before we read it, right? Why do we put the semicolon? What does the semicolon do? It ends the SQL statement. If you hit enter, it goes to line 2, say continue writing. And if you don't want to continue writing, what do? You stop this. You stop it by doing what? Put it a semicolon. Thank you. And that's I'm saying put it. He says no. I put it before. It does not show. It will show. All right. Our instance. Look at the sequence. It's important. The database close. We're talking here the files, right? The files close. Before the files close, what had happened? Checkpoint had happened. Correct? Buffer cache had been written down to the files, then the files close in a consistent manner. This is called a graceful shutdown. All right? Then your database dissociated with the instance. Right? Which is what? On mounting. All right? And after that, what happened? The instance went down. Let's take a look at when we do a startup. All right? And let's look at the sequence of events. Which one occurs first? Startup. It's one word. Are we good? You hit enter. Look at what happens. Memory has been allocated, right? The SG has been given 400 or something. All right? Fixed size, variable size, buffers allocated. So that's what Oracle is taking the memory from the operating system and is allocating it. What happens first? Instance started, then what's what? Mounting took place, and what happened? Open. So if you look at it, is the reverse order in which it came down. Database closed, database opened at the last. It started here first, but this is the last, right? It mounted, disconnected, database dismounted, instance started, instance shut down at the last event. What file did the instance read to start? Does the instance read to start? The parameter file, absolutely. Are we good?
Yes.
What file does the instance read to mount? Control file. As soon as you know this more than the morning class. Let me explain something to you. Today, somebody in the morning class won something, and I'm not even going to give you that opportunity. Why not? You did so poorly in the presentations.
You weren't even recatch up now.
I wasn't even here, but the same person who graded 9 on 10 graded 3 on 10.
We are not used to presentations. Some of us, so first time.
Some people had 9 on 10 in the same class.
Yeah, different.
Meaning what?
Some people have
The database that you are going to learn is not different.
Different people.
Database same.
No excuse.
Thank you. There is no excuse. Good. What do you mean by they did? No. I will get 9 on 10 next time is all that you can say.
Yes.
Don't be saying that it is this. No, they too started it the same day, right? Being taught by the same person. If they did such a good job, you first look. You can blame the world for any of your things, but I don't blame world. I blame myself first. What can I do differently? Because that's the only person who can change you. Is you. And you must decide, make that determination that you know what? If they had that 9 and 10 and we started this thing the same, guys, let's talk about this. We'll sit together. You are going to get this, you are going to get this. Practice, let us hear. The only way you will know it is if you practice.
Yes.
They are across the street there, some people are practicing there. Guess what? They'll stay there for 8 months. And they know it. I know it too. Looking for a job. Some already left. Some have not been there for 2 weeks, 10 days, they're gone. But if you went to every practice, there were those who were talking. We did not. You are not afraid to make a mistake, because when you make a mistake, what do we do? We fix it and we move forward. Those who are not shy, that's my one thing I've always told you, don't be shy. If you take yourself to something, you make a mistake, I will look at it as a joke, it's okay. Guess what? You try the next time, at least you know what you don't know. Remember, if you don't know what you don't know, that's done. At least you know that you are bad in presentations, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's what I want to say.
All right. I want us to shut down this database, but now we are going to bring it up systematically. Right? What is the status of our instance when we look at that there? It was open, right? Look at it here. Database is what? It was open. So I want to shut it down, but I want only an instance to be started. I don't want it to be mounted. Are we following? All right. So we do a shutdown. But we remember what is our goal? Start up only the instance. Do not mount it. Do not open it. Are we good? So let's do startup. Startup, no mounts. You see that? Startup, no mounts. So we're asking the instance to start, but do not be mounted. Do not associate. So which means, what file are we asking it to read? Just the parameter file and start the instance. And let's see. You see that? It did not continue. You see where it stopped? Memory allocated. If you check, background processes are running too. And that is our instance. Are we following? Yes, look at here. It went on to read control file. All right? And then open. So it says, total, okay, it gives you our memory. If we select for background processes, we'll see those that are already started. Let us mount this database. Does that make sense? Or let us mount the instance to the database. Are we following? We'll do alter database mount. Does that make sense? Okay, let us look at this. Look at this. Before you do that, let us do this. Let us select the status from $V instance. We need to see the status now, right? The status should be what? It is not open, right? Let's select status from $V instance. Note, we're getting most of all this information from data dictionary, correct? So select the status from the $V instance. What is that status? Started. Our instance is started. Are we following? How about, okay, let me look at, please listen. We have a started instance. What does that mean? It means that are we associated to a database yet? Are we? No. So, but let's find out if there is a name to that database. We know it is not associated with the database, right? So let's see. It should error out, right? Because we are not mounted yet, correct? Let's do select name from the $database. Does it error out? There is an error, which says what? Our database is not mounted. Because we are what is the state? Started. So we don't even have a name of a database. So what is mounting? Associating that started instance with this database. Does that make sense? So let's mount this database. We'll do alter mount. Are we good? Alter database mount. So now we'll say only mount, do not open, right? Yeah. Just alter database mount. What does it say? Database altered. What does that mean? The instance is now associated with the corresponding database. Are we good? Let's find out the status of our instance now. Select from the $instance. What should it say? Mounted. What did we do here? Alter database mount. Select status on the instance. What does it say? The instance is mounted. Is it open yet? No. So you, the DBA, can come in here to do administrative work, but the users cannot come in. All right? So let's go now and open the database. Remember, we shut it down in a consistent manner, which was what? Shut down immediately. All right. Let's do alter database open. We're trying to open it. Take it from what state? The mounted state to the open state. Alter database open. It says database altered. So let's find out the status of the instance now, correct? Select status from $. It says open. So we have gone from the idle instance where the status was started to the mount state where we have associated the instance and the database, and now to the open state. So our database is now open. Instance being in the mount, in the no mount and the mount states, only you, the DBA, is interested in those because you perform certain administrative actions with the instance not mounted. You perform others with the instance just mounted and not open. Administrative duties, administrative activities. While it's at any of these states, nobody can get to it except you. Any question? I want us to look at that instance separate from that database. Although they work together, we can manage the two of them and manipulate the two of them aside. When you have an instance that is just started, it does not look at the files. Okay. When the instance, question, when the instance from here where we did a startup no mount, what file did it read? It read the parameter file to start up the instance. When we went from on here, where we said alter database mount, what file did it read? The control file, because the control file contains the structure of the database. It contains the listing of all data files and the redo log files that belong to that database. So that is the structure of the database. It did not even go check if the files are actually there, but the fact that you gave it a structure, it could mount. All right? What file did it read to go and open the database? What file did it read to open the database? The control file, right? Very good. All right. When he was reading the control file to mount, what was he looking for? To mount.
For mount, you're looking for the database file.
He was looking for what? The structure, right? The files, structure, looking for the data file location and the what? And the redo log files location. When he was reading the control file to open the database, what information was he looking for? The SCN number. And okay, from the control file, we're looking for all the SCN number. Does that make sense? All right, good. That's what ends somebody training box this morning.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah? Yes, in the morning we are gotten the training. The people who do not do assignment do not deserve. Try again. Did you do assignment?
Yes.
All right. Any question? Yes.
For example, if like we're starting or like we're doing this, like putting all the SQL in right now, and we got lost and we want to go back to the SQL, how do we go? How do I go back?
How did you get in the first place? Let's see. What did you type to get in? I wrote it on the board, that's why you should remember.
My username?
No. No, even that one, that was to point to the database we wanted to go to. We don't have process, so good. But what do? To connect, we use what? SQL Plus and DB1. That's what we use to connect the database. Then we started typing the commands again. SQL Plus assist_DBA /assist_DBA. We are connected as the most powerful user. Let me show you, let me explain something. I had explained to you when we're doing file system that it is very important that we know the name of a file. Are we following? Yes. Let us look at the names of the file, how Oracle sees file names. Are we good? Let's do select, name, from the $data file. Select name from $data file. I'll put my semicolon. It should give us the data file names, correct? Do you see how it looks at its name? The name include what? The path. I told you the absolute name of a file is what? The path. I want you to understand that when you are going to create, or when Bernadette creates the BR, when she creates a BR dev, are we following? She will have a file called system01.dbl sysox undo users example. She will have all of these files. But guess what? What's going to be the difference? The directory where they will be. Instead of BRDMO, they will be in what? BRDEV. You had car report in Maxima. You had car report in Ultima. You had car report in Pilot. You had car report in CRV. Right? The names are the same. But the name of that file includes what? The path. So because this is not going to be DMO, it will be DEV, that's the only difference. It will be in a different directory. So if you look at it, we're going back, we're doing the same thing that we're doing before with our cars. If you did not understand it then, haha, tough luck. Because this is what will differentiate our different databases. And once you understand a file system, then you can play with these databases with your hands like that. You can have 20 of them, but no file is mixing with another. Because if you take the file for prod and bring it to overwrite this system, 2 databases are dead. Crash. 2 databases are dead. And don't think about a database dying as a small job. If you ever have sweat in 20 degrees winter, you will sweat. I have little tolerance for distraction because, like I told you before, your boss will say, go and do this with the FN sand. He says what? Go and do that with the FN sand, and guess what? You go to SN sand. Because for that second, you were doing whatever. I don't know what it is. You have to focus. You see here, if there is no semicolon, like the gentleman over there, it is not going to work. If you double space it, when he single spaces it, it's not going to work. So you must cultivate this habit of being very careful. You must read before you hit enter. You must do those things. It is a habit. If you are careless, this is not your business. If you are careless, why do surgery? Because you're going to cut the wrong cord. Oh, yes. There are certain things that we can tolerate carelessness. This is not part of it. Because if you hit the wrong or you distract for 1 second, production will go down. And it will not just be the people who are depending on that your salary. It's going to be more. When I talk, you laugh. Your wife will hate you, young man. She will hate you. Your wife will slap you. You don't eat food. You don't know nothing. They'll kill you in your house. When they fired you, when I got a job for $120,000, that means that God has buttered your bread. Say, take it, enjoy this life. You go there and become careless. It is carelessness that's going to kill you and nothing. Not the oracle. You will know it when you live here. I know that for a fact. But all what is killing people is carelessness, overzealousness. They will tell you it is not nice to have 2 jobs at the same time. Guess what? You have one, you have 2. I know one guy who lost both in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes. If you're not focused or concentrated, I will know. Your boss will know. I'll say, you know what? I can't deal with this. My data is too important for my business, for me, for my job, for this company that they have built for 100 years, 50 years. And you come and be careless with it. It doesn't work like that. Please, presentation is part of your work. You are the only one who understands database administration, and certain things you must explain to the higher ups, and that is the thing. You will explain to the chief officers, financial officer. Your boss is asking us to move to another level, right? To take us from 11 to 12, from 12 to 18. And that is what is good. That is what is trending. The solutions that these people want, they are already in there. And if you cannot go and explain this side, that's why I'm giving you presentations. They may not understand what you're saying, but you cannot go there and babble, or they cannot ask you something and you will explain them the simple architecture, the enhancements, what are the new features of this. If you do it, you are fine. But if you babble, you are dealing with the C officers. Who are what C officers are? The chief financial officer, the chief executive officer, the CEO, which means one will just make like that. You are out. I'm saying that presentations, and you must learn how to do it here. You don't want to go and learn and work now.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go and practice across the street with real interviews. All right. I want to do something very, a few simple things. What do I want to do? We'll start with the next class. We'll do parameter. I've already sent you chapter 4, right? Yeah. Please print it out. Please print it out. Print it out. And that's what we're doing next week. Next class. I want to, whenever you get inside your database, I told you this is the most powerful user, correct? Yes. With this privilege, you are connected as a sys user. So I'm going to, if you want to see who you are connected as, you can do show user, and it will tell you that you are sys. I want to show you how easy database administration is. All right. No, let me just do select. I want us to look at our review log files and see the table spaces that we have so far. Are we good? So we can query for both the logical list and the physical. We know where they are. We can go and look at the physical as well. But let's just do select member from v $log file. Those are our review logs, right? You see the redo 01, redo 2, redo 3. Those are the redo logs. I I want us to take a look at the $B table space. We can do select, name, you know that these data files must all belong to table spaces, correct? Correct?
Yes, correct.
So we have a system table space, we have a sysox table space, select name from $B table space. These are all from data dictionary, we call them data dictionary views. So we have a table space called system, sysox, undo, users, temp, and example. And we have data files in them as well. I want to do a small exercise. Sometimes you go to work and they'll say, create a new user. We just hired a new developer, correct? Are we following? Yeah. So we hired a new developer, we hired a new analyst or a new tester. So I want us to create a user and let's call that user your name, and we're going to give that user's password your name and 1 at the end of it. Does that make sense? So in Bernadette's case, you will have create user Bernadette. All right, and we'll do identified by same sentence ident. Bernadette. You see that? Create user Bernadette. Do your first name, identified by your first name and 1. In our case, identified by Bernadette 1. Huh? Oh, I put Bernadette. Wow. I'm used to writing my name, not Bernadette. Like the password will not work. You understand what I mean? I would have been putting something when I'm saying something. So again, it's yourself. I don't let us break it. All right. Identified by Bernadette 1. Okay, semicolon. What does it say? User created. Does that make sense? But note that the fact that a user is created does not mean that that user can actually go into that database. We must give that user what? Permissions to get into the database. Does that make sense? So I'm going to grant the ability to connect to Bernadette, this user that we've just created, right? Maybe, and then to use some space, because we're going to use it at some point. So I'll grant connect and I'll grant resource, so you can use some resources on the database. Does that make sense? Because when you connect, you need resources. All right. So we can do grant, connect, comma, resource. Do you see that? Grant, connect, which means that Bernadette should be able to connect to the database, right? Resource means that she can use some resources, space. She can create something if she wants to. To Bernadette. What does it say? Grant succeeded. All right. I want to get out of this database and connect as this user that we just created. Are we following? Mm-hmm. All right. So to get out of SQL, I will exit. I don't want the user Bernadette to connect with this powerful privilege. Because if you give her this powerful privilege, she'll be able to shut down the database. Does that make sense? Are we good? Yes. So only sys will connect as sysdba. So in this case, I'll just bring up SQL Plus. Just like SQL Plus on itself. All right? We're not asking you to connect as anything. So the username will be Bernadette, right? Are we good? And the password will be what? Bernadette 1. She's connected. Your job for that day is done. These are the kind of things that bring in your exam. By the way, some people advise that I should give very frequent exams, right?
Yes.
Right? I think it's a good thing. Sometimes I'll wait till chapter 10 now. By 6, we have done 1, 2, 3, 4. This is maybe 4.
So I also noticed that with the semicolon, if you put a semicolon, it also works. So not to get confused, we can keep it as
You can, absolutely. I kind of really advise, but it's just that I go a little bit, sometimes quick and then do it and oops. So to be safe, you can always use it. But if you are doing like the select, the update, you always use it. All time, those DDLs and DMLs, you always. But all of these ones like the show, the startup and so on, you don't have to. So these things can be very simple, but please, I want you to understand what you are doing, not just be typing a command. I'm trying to create a user. Who is a user? It means that if I go down and search amongst users, I should see a Bernadette in there, right? Correct?
Yeah.
All right, so I can do that. Let's do that, but we should get out of this because she doesn't have the right to go and see all users. She just, right? We just created her as a user. So if we exit, and if I go back and bring my SQL Plus 6 DBA, I'm connected. I did not shut down the database. So the database is running. We connect and disconnect, connect and disconnect. Does that make sense? I'll shut it down when I was in there and I was trying to shut it down so I can do a startup mount or no mount or do something. Are we following? Your database should be running and should stay up running. But if you want to get out of it, exit, you disconnect from SQL. If you want to connect to it, SQL Plus 6 DBA, we just connected back, right? I want to find out if the user called Bernadette was created. Of course, we connected as that user. I can do a select DBA underscore users. Select name from DBA underscore users. DBA underscore user is another data dictionary view that will enable us to say, I think that name is correct. No, name is not correct. I think it's username. It could be. All right, but this is how I can find out. If I want to find out what column I need to select, I can describe DBA underscore users. And it will tell me that it's username. You see that? But there's a column called username, not null, which means you cannot leave it variable character 2, it can be as long as 30. We've seen metadata before, right? Mm-hmm. Good, so that's meta information. So I just query that meta information and I see username. So now I can do what? Select username from DBA underscore users. So I forgot the column name, right? And I just ask it to show me, just describe it. Show me metadata about that table. Confused?
So if you don't know the proper wording for your SQL statement, you can find it here.
No, I said there is an object that I know. That object is called DBA underscore users, which contains all the names of every user in the database. So I said select name. He said no, I don't have a name. Then I said okay, maybe it's username. But before I do that, I can verify it if I want to by show me the metadata of DBA underscore users. Does that make sense? And it showed me the columns that are listed out. It's spelled out as username. And that's why I went in here to select username from DBA underscore users, and it shows me all the users. And I can scroll up to look for Bernadette is there, which we just created.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question. After created the username, they ask about the password. Which one is
The one that you created. Remember, we said, how did we create it? Look at how I created that user called Bernadette. If you look at the statement, it said what? Create user Bernadette identified by, that is the password. I said I should put the same thing on one, just so that I don't forget. Did you create your own user called Bernadette or your own?
No.
Yes, so that is the password. Identified by is the password. Yes. I can't hear you. Say that again a little louder.
I say when I create use my name, when I enter it, let me know database not open.
Say that again. When you issue what?
When I create username, Olivia identified by Olivia 1. I enter, they let me know database not open.
Good. So when we shut down your database, you are not yet opening it back. How do you open it? Start with an S. Start up. If you do a startup, it goes all the way, right? It goes starts, it mounts, and it opens. Start up. Oh, okay. Questions?
So if you don't know the correct wording for your SQL statements,
It will keep giving you errors until you figure it out. Does that make sense? Any questions?
What you did to clone?
Questions. What, you need what I just copied?
Yes.
Why? Okay, tell me how to send it to you. What? Tell me what to do.
question. So all those users, are they the ones that we created?
No, you created one user, right?
Yeah, so what are all those?
Administrative users doing different functions. So we're going to open them. He told you at some point that all of them were locked, right? And I said we'll open them when we need to. All right, they are there on her desktop. No, he wants this file. Hmm? How do you get it? It's there now, something is there. How do you get it? Hey, I'm there. Figure, tell me the way to give it to you and I'll send it to you. Hmm?
Send it to my email.
Hmm? Say that again. Okay, she's student 504, all right? So I'm going to bring it out to my local machine. Does that make sense? I'll bring it out to...
Mommy's waiting for you.
You see? Please, when you see it's my email, you should close your eyes. Money's waiting for you. All right, I'm going to use this tool. That's 504, right? So I'm going to connect to... Why are you happy? I'm giving this up because money's waiting for you. All right, student 504. 504. I want to bring this locally to my machine so I can email it to whoever, one person, then they can share it. We're connected as Oracle, right? Because it's Oracle's home, class, what? 26. So I say log in. First time I'm connecting, it warns me. Are you sure where you're going to? I say yes. All right, see that? The file is there, SQL statement, right? And I want to get it locally to my desktop, which is my local machine here, right? That's my desktop with everything on it. And I can just drag it from my server to my local machine and it is there. Correct? We good?
I don't know what you're doing, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. You just want what?
I just need
the copy. So you think what do you think I am doing? Okay, let me go back to my email and I go to view message. Somebody give me a OJO.money.
K-O-J-I.
Do you understand that if I send it to her, she can forward it to you? So instead of her trying to give your own, you say, Jeko.
She was not talking. The best thing is take
Yeah, you can share it to everyone.
In the group.
So I'm saying if she has it, she can, it's in the group, you can put it there.
Give your phone.
Check mine. That's
Monica. That's my general email. I can use what I want.
What was that file called again?
On the service.
So my desktop, and it's called SQL statement. That's it. Okay.
What is it trying to do?
Okay, so one other person too. At least two people.
How much?
I
Herman.
H.
H-E-R-M-A-N-N.
N-N.
Yes, W-A-M-B-O.
W-A-M-B-O.
1 at gmail.com.
No. All right, so please share. YouTube got it. Any questions? You got it? So the best thing is just to throw it in your WhatsApp group. Everybody has it.
Yeah. So for us to kind of get a copy of what can we do?
Yeah, just put it.
To get what?
To get what you just need. How can we do it?
I have sent it to two of them to share.
No, I understand that, but this is like to get in the future, like when we work on it and want to share or.
Oh, all I did was to copy it.
I tried that. Copy.
Try harder. I highlight, right?
Yeah, I copied it.
I right click.
Copy.
I copy.
And then you paste it where?
I opened the file. I created a file. You think what these people? Did I copy the whole? Oh, I came in here. I copied just all the class today. I came out here and did a touch. Oh, touch. The person you're getting.
I don't create the file, yeah. And then
Create the file, then open the file in the edit method. Go into insert mode and paste. Why do you learn something I cannot practice it now? That's practice, right? After that, I move the file to my client. Any way you want.
So how do you move it?
Okay. If you want to go to the internet from your server, you can do applications, internet. That is the browser. You can attach it the same way that I attached. All right? I just used a different tool to bring it to my desktop. But that's it, connecting to Mozilla Firefox, go to your email and move forward. Good? I just gave a different option. The first one I did it.
you said good, it's good.
Now, if you say bad, then I know computer basics is your problem. All right, that's it for me. Print your notes. Just take a look at the notes. If I come in, okay. If on Wednesday we do not have a better performance on presentations, we are going to present during the class. Note that the morning class I will already teach because they have one other group and their standards have been very, very high already. So you don't want to present during the class, right? So do a good job with the presentation. So I move forward. That's how I move forward. As I told you, I cannot move forward when things are not working from the back end. Can I have